Hey, it's Rick from Dogtooth. This is a little extra. It's not a daily dog, so to speak, but I just thought I'd just do a little kind of recap, just in case anyone's thinking about getting into graphics, wondering what it's about. So, at the age of 13, I thought, I looked through the careers book at school and I saw architecture, and I thought, oh, I want to be an architect. But unfortunately, due to the fact that architecture takes too long to go to university and things, it just put me off. There was just too much studying to do. And, I'm a visual guy. I would love to draw the visual of a building, but I'm not a maths guy, really. So I think I would have struggled with all the span widths and weights and all that kind of thing that needs to go into a building, which is what you have to do when you're an architect, in case it falls down. So I decided on graphic design. And so from that point at 13, the choices I took at school helped me to go to where I was going. And I think even back then I had an inkling that I would love to run my own business. I think my dad was self-employed at the time, just as an electrician, not as a designer, but I just thought that life was something that I probably wanted. So I ended up going to college. I'm really mediocre, even rubbish academic, and virtually failed all my exams bar 2. So thankfully I'd done some extra graphics work that my dad had actually set me, and that's what got me in on the course, because I wouldn't have achieved it if I hadn't have done that. I then just got by when I went to do my national diploma in graphics, which is like the first 2 years. I didn't get into any of the colleges that I wanted to get into to do the higher national diploma, which I would have gone on to do a degree. I didn't get into any of those because I was a mediocre student. I basically just messed about all the time. I didn't get it. I wasn't interested. Life was just fun, and I lived it, and I didn't study, and I didn't do anything that I should do. Plus, to be quite honest, I was a rubbish graphic designer as well. So ended up went on to a higher national diploma in visual communications it was, but basically I got kicked off after the first year because of everything, mainly down to beer, really. But just I was poor. That's the only way of looking at it. I just didn't. I wasn't focused. I wanted it. I wanted to be a graphic designer, but I didn't want to put the effort in, and that's why they ended up getting rid of me. So then I ended up back in the town that I grew up in, which is a place called Malton. I got a job for the summer, and then I ended up doing what now I see I'm good at, which is being practical about things. So I'm not academic, I'm very practical. So I put together my portfolio of the work that I've done when I was at college, and I went around a few design studios in the nearest city, which is York. And York has quite a lot of printing and graphics places. And I went around a few of these design companies. I just rang them up and said, look, I'm looking for a job, but what I would like to do is to design my portfolio in such a way that it ensures I get a job. So I'm not coming for a job, but I would just like your input on my portfolio. So I did that, went to a few places. And eventually, I know what I had hoped, I think, would happen. Someone said, oh, well, we like your portfolio, and we see you do computers. That will give you an indication of the age of which the industry was. Would you like to come and work for us? And so that's where I started my career, which was basically pushing myself out, going out there with something practical and essentially not forcing myself on anyone, but being available, and I got a job. So I worked in reprographics, which was not graphic design, but it was the print industry. And I did a little bit of graphics, but again, I was mediocre at best because I hadn't listened at college. I hadn't taken it all in. I hadn't understood it, the values of it. I hadn't, wasn't in the zone, as it were, for graphics. So then, after that happened, I went on to another job, and then because I was technically very good with computers and Macs particularly, someone, and it sounds grand to say, but I was headhunted, but someone actually asked me if I wanted a job with them, and they were quite a good design agency in York. They had an Edinburgh office, and they'd just been voted one of the top 10 design agencies in branding, and I said, yeah, of course I will. So I went to work for them as an art worker. So that's someone who takes a designer's designed it, and then the in-between bit between the designer's just visual version and the printable version. And there's often a big gap between what a designer does and what can actually be printed. So then I would do all the conversion. But the brilliant thing about this job was the fact that I learned some really key lessons. One, and I didn't like it at the time, but now I think it was the best thing that happened to me. I was essentially the voice-activated, program for the creative director who didn't know how to use a Mac, didn't know how to use Photoshop, didn't know how to use Illustrator or anything. So he would always just be over my shoulder going, oh, can you move that up? Can you move that left? But it gave me real understanding and skills in Photoshop, the broad level concepts of graphic design. So I could do all the technical stuff, I could do everything in Illustrator, I could do everything in Photoshop, but actually the principles of graphic design I never listened to at college. So now I was getting them from the horse's mouth, as it were, and in a very good agency as well. So I ended up becoming a good designer through taking that information that he was passing through to me. And I worked on projects for Lego, for Vodafone, for a load for Nestle. Nestle was based in York, so it's quite, at the time, it sounds like a brilliant brand name, but they were just a local company. They're a multinational local company, but they were local to us. So, and I did all these great, amazing things because what I also understood was, coming from graphics and print, is that design is not just about graphic design. Everything is designed, down to the furniture you sit on, to the buildings that you're in, to computer programs, not the things that you make with the computer programs, but the programs are designed, games are designed, everything is designed, down to machinery, it is all designed. And that concept I got when I was there, because we did some amazing stuff, like from building, I did some 3D modeling in early days of 3D modeling for Iceland, the country. We did computer interactive consoles. We just did so many things, and it was just the understanding of that creative thought and how to get to a brilliant solution. We worked with Ideal Standard, the shower company, and we worked with a company where basically you could hover your hand over a device that sensed where the distance was, and it would drop these fountains in and out of the water, in and up and down they were, sorry. So with your hand you could control all these fountains. That was for an exhibition. So we just did so many creative things, and it was just amazing to be part of that. But then, unfortunately, we burnt all the money. Well, not me, particularly me, but the MDs and CEOs or whatever they were, they spent all the money and ended up closing our office in York, and then eventually they closed the Edinburgh office as well, and went bust. So it was a real shame, because it was a brilliant job, the best job I had. And then I ended up on my own. I walked out, and I always think of it as that Jerry Maguire scene when when he goes onto the phone and all the phone lines are ringing and he's trying to get all his clients. That was a bit like us at the dinner time when they shut our office. Like all of us were out on the street trying to sort out, another job, or in my case, freelance work. So I ended up freelancing for quite a few years, maybe about 3 years on and off. I worked for one of my old bosses, doing work for him, like 2 or 3 days a week. And then I ended up working for him full time, but I realised actually by that point I didn't want to work for anybody else anymore. I'd already started my own business, gone back into work for someone, and I just knew it wasn't for me. So in 2006 I started as a limited company, doing graphics for people, for local companies, for doing freelance as well still, for some interesting projects, and paying the bills from the shed at the bottom of my garden, basically. And it was great. And then 2008, I met a guy called Ed, and I started a signage company. Yeah, I'd already bought a sticker machine by this point. I started a signage company along with another project that I was working on, which I'll have to do another time because I realised this is getting to be like 10 minutes and it's more about that than the graphic design part of it. But my point is that if you understand the principles of graphic design, or the principles of design, not graphic design, you can do anything. And so we've got a young lad who's just working for us now, he's doing an apprenticeship, and I was just saying to him yesterday about, it's all about understanding the concepts rather than doing the job, rather than someone asking you to put some lettering on a sheet. It's, well, yeah, I've got some lettering, but what's the point? I'm trying to communicate. With graphic design, it's about communication. So then understanding the principles of that, not going too close to the edges, this sort of negative space. There's loads of little things that that you're probably taught in college, but you don't listen to. It is key that you listen to these things. These are what makes a graphic designer, if that's the area you want to go into. Anyway, I only wanted this to be a 10-minute talk, and it's now 11 minutes, and I haven't even got into running my own business, which I am sat in at the moment. So this is my studio. One day we're going to have a floor in here, which will then have double the space. But for the moment, this is my studio, and I'm not saying that when I am not a millionaire, sadly, but I do love my business. I love my job. I love what I do. There's days I hate doing certain tasks within my job, within my business, but for me, I don't have a Monday morning feeling, and that's the thing, is that I just love what I do. I get to be creative. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll see that I'm still applying design to multiple things. So, furniture, graphic design. I've just done a brochure. We do print stickers. We do wall graphics in hospitals. We do so many variety of things. But the core concepts, the core principles are creative design. So that's what I wanted to do. So I'll just stop it there at 12 minutes. So this was not a daily dog. This was like a big, long, lengthy talk that just got away from itself. But I hope that if anyone is actually looking to get into the design industry, that it was actually of use to you. But if not, hey, you were entertained for a few minutes. If you got this far, thank you very much for sticking around. Right, this is Rick from Dogtooth. Goodbye.